Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? So I'm live right now because I cannot get my camera to act right. Today I wanted to talk about, as the title says, all the old knives. And I just want to say a few things about the actors and why I picked the movie in the first place, um, that you might find amusing. I have cataracts growing in my eyes, so my vision is kind of wonky. And I know I'm moving a lot. That's just what I do. Sorry. Um, and I saw the listing for it on my laptop. For well, I thought I didn't see it very well, and I thought it was the sequel to Knives Out, and I thought it was Chris Evans and not Chris Pine, but it is not Chris Evans, and it is Chris Pine, which moves me to the next thing I want to say about the actors. I really like Chris Pine. I like Chris Evans too. But I like Chris Pine because in his roles he seems very amiable and just charismatic and nice. And the same seems to hold true with his actual, you know, off screen personality because I have seen him be approached by TMZ a number of times, and sometimes they're nice and respectful and they really like the person they're trying to talk to, and sometimes if maybe that element doesn't exist, they are less than kind and aggressive and just the kind of people I would not want to talk to if I was a famous person. Like they get sort of irritated if you're not if you don't if the actor doesn't give the reaction that they're looking for. And he just is so nice they can't do that to him. He doesn't really give them anything because he doesn't really have to. But he it just handles them so nicely that you just got to think, or I just think he must actually be a really nice guy. And I know that I mean I liked him in Star Trek and stuff. Uh, I'm not really sure if I could name all of the other things I've seen him in, but I really enjoyed him in I Am the Night, which was about the guy that they think killed the Black Dahlia short. I can't remember her name. Louise? No, not Louise. Well, the Black Dahlia anyway. I know her last name is Short. And he didn't play that character. The character was a doctor and an art collector, but what he was, I believe, was a private detective, and he was actually working. Well, I don't want to talk all about that. I just really wanted to bring it up because of something that happened in it that I thought was really sweet and funny. And I think it's an actual thing like that I don't think he was putting on. At one point, his character in I Am the Night goes to the beach for some reason, and they show him walking on the sand, and I guess it was for comedic effect. It certainly worked that way for me. It was just funny the way he was walking. But the best part was another actor came up, and his line was something like "walk in sand much," but the and that was funny, but even more so because after he got off the sand, he still walked like that, and that's not like we walk how we walk. It just tickled me, and it kind of gave me a soft spot in my heart for him. So okay, that's all about. And also, in that movie, he was directed by Patty Jenkins, who I think is marvelous, and I think she did an amazing job on The Hurt Locker. And he really likes working with her, and he seems to really respect her just for who she is, and she happens to be a woman, and that makes me happy. So he is a reason why I even chose it. I mean, it's something I might have watched anyway, but it's not really something that I have talked about on my channel. I do watch those type of movies. So anyway, the The other reason is Candy Newton. I really enjoy her too. I can't think of anything that I saw her in that I don't have high praise for. Uh, and same for Chris Pine. And I don't talk about stuff I don't like on here. So that's usually because I don't watch stuff I don't like. But back to Sandy Newton. The reason why I like her so much is not just because of her skill, and yes, she's beautiful, and yes, he's handsome, but for her, she looks like a bunch of my relatives, and so it's hard not to like her because she looks like relatives of mine that I really love. So it's always a pleasure to see her because the people I'm talking about have either passed away or they're way in Louisiana or Texas and I never see them. So that is part of my criteria for choosing a movie, and there you go. Now you know that. So the movie, I gotta say, Curse Warning, my first impression was that was fucked up. But it was part of a beautiful story, really. I mean, it's painful. It is very, I was going to say it's painful in a way, but it's just painful in the painful way because of the way that everything was misunderstood because of people not talking to each other in careers where secrecy is what they do and misdirection is what they do and threats and coercion is what they do. So what happens in the movie is, oh, there will be spoilers, and I just put up the main cast that I felt uh, had the most to do with the story. There's a lot of peripheral people who are very good, but they were very peripheral too. So those actors are the main cast as far as I'm concerned. So in the movie, the actors work, or the people in the movie work for the U.S. at the embassy, and they're not ambassadors, which is funny because the U.S. is always saying, "Yeah, there's nothing to see at embassies. There's no spying going on." Okay, we're really dumb, I guess, if we keep believing that. Because here in the movie is a whole gang of spies that have an office in the embassy, American embassy in Vienna. And this is not in the present. At least the the stuff in the story that the actors are talking about, or that the story is based on, it's a flashback kind of a deal. So part of it's in the present, and part of it's in the past, where the stuff that happens that affects their present takes place. And Chris Pine's character, Henry Pelham, and Celia Harrison, Ken Newton's character, are both an analyst and an agent, I guess, an operative. I'm not really sure. Uh, but they both work at the embassy, and they're out in the field anyway. They're not office analysts, and they're lovers, and they're in love, and that's part of the tragedy of the story and part of the mix-up because there was a certain incident that they referred to as the flight number, which was 127. The chief says a few times when 127 happened because it really was a pivotal point in these characters' lives. So these terrorists hijack a plane, and there's some, I think, made up group, but they're known to these people at the Vienna office as terrorists for one, but then they learn that they do what they say. You know, they're not going to be cajoled and talked into anything but what they want, and they will kill people. They have a history of doing it. It's known by some of the people in the office who make the rest of the people that are not aware of it, and it sort of creates a fission between the group. And so part of them are like, just give them what they want or people are going to die. And the rest of them are like, no, we should do something. We should storm the plane. We should try to save people. You know, they just want to do what they want to do and they don't want to be pushed around because Americans are used to winning and we are just not going to have it, I guess. We them, not we me. I frown on that type of activity. So while they're trying to figure out what to do about the plane, they start getting text messages, and it turns out they have an agent of theirs that's actually on the plane. And the hijackers have closed the windows and made all kinds of threats. And so the guy's trying to be really circumspect, and he's discussing with the office like what's happening and how to breach the plane. And so they make a plan, and they're talking to their agent on the plane that no one else knows. They're not telling other concerned parties that actually do have a stake in the game that they have this person on there because they say they don't want to, you know, get him killed, basically. And so they are talking to him and the agent on the plane, and they're working out a plan, and they decide, well, let's uh, go under the plane and reach it from underneath, like, I guess, the cargo compartment or something. And they're discussing this, and they're going to do it, and then all of a sudden they start getting messages from their guy on the plane, and he's going, no, actually, you can't do that because they put a camera under the plane, so they're going to know if you go up to the plane and try to breach it from underneath. And everyone's like, how did they know to put a camera there? And there's a lot of discussion, like maybe it was put on the plane in Iran or wherever it was before it came into Europe. It could have, they're like, oh, it could have happened. Like they could have just thought ahead. But that turns out not to be the case. Spoilers. There will be spoilers. So it turns out that when they go to do that, the guy on the plane's like, he tells them, no, you can't do that. They know. And there's a camera. Oh, I already said that. So they're like, how could they know that? Who told them? How could they know there's got to be a mole? So when they realize this, they then start looking for the mole. And there is indeed a mole, but he's not a mole for the reasons of, you know, gung ho USA, and he's not a mole for the other side, although it appears that way. But what it is that Henry has a CI, and this guy is, he's poor, he's got a family, he's kind of in between his own country and helping the Americans, which would not go over well in his country if they were aware of it. And so he's doing something he really doesn't want to do, and he's putting himself in a dangerous position by doing so, and it pisses the guy off. And he then retaliates by turning the threats right back around at Henry Pelham, and thereby forcing Henry Pelham to do things like put a camera under the plane so that no one can go up to it. And he doesn't want anyone to know this because, hi, that's not his job. It looks really bad. But he doesn't want to admit it. But the threats to him are to his love, Celia. And no es bueno. So they start an investigation inside the office, and they're still not telling the other people involved, the Austrians and or the Germans. And it is because what the hijackers have wanted is a prisoner exchange. And they have said, if you just give us our prisoners, we'll give you yours, we'll give you the plane, just give us our people back. And so apparently, the Merkel in the movie is like, okay, we'll bring the prisoners out and we'll bring them like right to the airport. But really, they're not planning on giving them up. And it's that's probably not a great idea either. But it doesn't ever come to that. Uh, just other stuff outside of the hijacking happens, which I'm going to tell you about. So As part of the investigation, Celia goes to her boss's office, who is Bill Compton, played by the wonderful Jonathan Price, and he's a father figure to her, and so that adds a little extra something to their dynamic because if you don't have a father figure, this is just a personal observation. You have you have some issues in your life, uh, and if you didn't have the father, you really want the father, I guess. I mean, I have one, so or I had one, but it was almost like not having one, so I kind of can relate. Um, but I guess you just I don't even. It's like a genetic structure or something. You got to have the parents, and so she's bonded with this guy, and what she finds while she's using his office to like work on hunting for this mole, she ends up going through his call log and finds something, a call to Iran that seems to point to him being the mole. And she just doesn't want to believe it because she loves this guy. But on the other hand, he is the guy in the office that has a lot of sympathy for these groups out there that we call Islamic militants. And I mean, I can understand that too. They have a hard enough life as it is, and they fight with their own like ethnic groups within the country, and then someplace like America or Great Britain comes along and just wants to pillage their resources and rape their people or whatever it is that happens when they come in and like start a war in a country or just are inhabiting it sort of illegally, for their own use. Like for like if it's America, we I guess want their resources or I don't know. There's stuff that goes on that is not entirely clear in real life, so I don't really want to dwell on that too much. But that should give you an idea. Or anyway, you live in the times of now as an adult, and just you will be aware of these things. I think, and so she finds this number in the call log that goes straight to Iran, and she's like, okay, well, I just don't want to believe it. This can't be right. And she is correct, it turns out. And then when they flash out of the past into the future, what what it is that both Celia and Henry are meeting for the first time in like a decade, and all of this stuff comes out where it didn't come out before, but it kind of comes out too late and only gets known to the two of them because both have come in with a team to determine whether their team should assassinate the other person. It's just terrible. And he tells her, the reason why I was the mole, and she did know he was the mole. She figured out that when they were meeting, he left and went to her boss's office and made the call to frame her boss. And she knew about it, but didn't know why. And I don't know why it took a decade for their bosses to figure out, like, we have to, like, make these people pay. They probably said it, but I guess I missed it. But they meet over dinner and they kind of tiptoe around everything because they still have feelings for each other, even though she's got a whole family now, and you know, they're there's no way they're going to be together. But he tells her, like, this is why I framed your father figure and our colleague, because I was coerced into it. Like, it would have been worse had I not done what the guy had done. He would have come after you and your family, which is not how his job is supposed to work. I think it's supposed to be for the good of all and not for the good of your lover. But I understand it. I understand the emotion behind it. So that's what happened. And he finally gets to tell her that, and she's just heartbroken because she knows that she's got somebody waiting outside to kill him, and they don't wait to find out what she's found out, and she doesn't know that she's gonna find it out until it's too late. they end up getting him, and it's just so tragic. When he's dying, he's explained all this stuff to her, and he's like, I'm still in love with you. And she's just like, she's such a good actress. Her whole face is crushed. It's so horrible. So, yeah, do I say it was fucked up? Or did I say that? That was my first impression when I finished watching it. I was like, that was fucked up. But beautiful in a really horrible way. And it's all because of the secret keeping and everybody covering their ass and the interfering where we shouldn't be interfering, and I gotta do this because this, and I can't tell that because of the other thing. It's like, wow, that makes no sense. So it resolves, but it's just really tragic. But it was a good movie, I have to say. And that about covers my commentary on that. Thank you. Not. Well, there you go. Bye bye.